Good morning, Bucknutters. Tuesday, May 3rd, 2016. I am Dan Rubin, joined as always on Tuesdays by the one and only Duane Long. Duane, our normal weather chatter. I have standard gray. Yourself?
Yeah, it's Ohio gray. Yeah.
You know those days people move to Arizona, Florida, California for? Today's one of them. So you can hear it in our voices. It's enthusiasm. But seriously, folks, that's because all weekend we were glued to the TV or the radio or wherever you were following the draft. It was an Ohio State extravaganza. We had been talking about it literally since last year's draft about how it would be the greatest piece of marketing ever for Ohio State. Even as we were talking about that all year, never in my wildest dreams would it have gone the way I thought it would have. Like Urban said, I mean, having him on the set of the NFL Network the second day to say it's like a 3-day infomercial, he pretty much laid it out there. We're going to spend today taking out the telescope and looking at next year's draft and the Buckeyes. But before we do that, maybe a final word from Duane putting this draft to bed.
Well, it's kind of hard to really wrap your mind around what happened there. You know, that I like the post that Alex put up about we hit for the cycle in the draft that we had somebody drafted at every position. That right there really is impressive. You know, beyond the numbers, just that every position we sent a guy to the NFL. That's something else. I think that puts a bow on the package right there. That takes it over the top for me.
Listen, you have draft every year, you have college football every year, and you can make the argument it's the greatest draft anybody's ever had. So once you enter that conversation, it's like the argument over who's better, Magic Johnson or Michael Jordan. It's like at that point, who cares? You know what I'm saying? It's like you're one of the greatest ever. It doesn't matter. It was incredible. The question is going to be, is this going to be part and parcel of the Ohio State program going forward? Is it going to be a thing where they get 3 or 4 first-round draft picks every year? We're now going to talk about 2017 because all the mocks came out, and yes, it's too early to talk about it, but yes, it's fun, and we all enjoy it. And it is a huge deal in the program. When you have every kid you recruit entering in the program with the goal of getting to this day, and you have a day like you had, or a weekend like we had, certainly we're talking about. So Duane and I are going to try and figure out who could leave early for next year. Obviously, you know there's very few seniors. I have a list of guys I think could leave early. Let's establish this. I think Pat Elflein as a senior will be a first-round draft pick. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. As a center, I think he's going to. He's handled this perfectly. You know, he's been a guard. Now move to his pro position and show him 1 year of that. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. He's going to be. I'm going to need to see a better center in college football next year. I just got that feeling this kid is just going to be a special one.
I agree completely. I think it's interesting that an Ohioan who managed to get out of the state and go to Alabama, Ryan Kelly, probably blazed a little bit of a trail for him. If you watched a lot of the draft coverage leading up to it, it's very clear that that is a position that NFL people can get very comfortable with in terms of your pedigree and such. There was no argument over Kelly. He may not have been the sexiest pick, but every person who evaluates the draft had him in that spot, and he was picked there. And Elflein has a similar or better pedigree just from a little bit further east in the state. So I think that's, barring injury, that's as close to a lock as you can get it. Who else on the team? And you can say, let's just go down the list and think of guys, the highest possible draft picks. If they need to be an early entry, go ahead.
Well, obviously, the first one jumps in your mind, a guy who's been, played a lot and been a good player for us as an underclassman is Tyquan Lewis. He was listed in the one mock that I looked at yesterday. I think he's pretty much a no-brainer. I still think I'd swap the ends. I'd put Hubbard at weak side, a little lighter guy. A little bit more explosive, a little bit more athletic, and put the stronger guy on the other side. It won't hurt Lewis, but I think Lewis has got to watch, and we do have to with Hubbard being able to be on the field every down, long guy. He's got his measurables are just about ideal for a weak side end. I think you got to look at Gary and Conley. Gary and Conley at the end of the year was playing as well as Eli Apple just went number 10. And last year, there's an argument that Gary and Conley was a better cornerback for the entire year.
I would make that argument.
He's a little bit bigger. He's a little bit more physical, and you need that with all the slip screens and long handoffs that you don't see them as much in the NFL, but they are there. And you need guys that are going to be much more sure tacklers. I think he's a guy that I'm going to be really surprised, actually, if he's back wearing scarlet and gray in 2017.
Agreed.
As far as others are concerned, well, we could see McMillan, but
yep.
the thing is, the coverage thing. He's just not really a good cover linebacker.
Is Raekwon McMillan as good right now as his reputation?
I'd say no. I just flat out no. He was good. He got better, but there were so many times I was like, you're supposed to make that play. There were too many times after a play, especially early on when we were getting hurt in the running game. He's just not getting off blocks consistently enough. He's not getting there, and he's not a 3-down linebacker. In the end, that's what it's going to come down to. 3-down linebackers, they're the only ones that go in the first round. You got to be able to play the pass these days, and he's just not there. So I think, here's my thing. I think he could go. I don't think he will go.
Like I said, he's listed on the mock draft. Now, obviously, please don't respond to this in the thread and say mock drafts don't mean anything that I fully and Duane, we fully grasp that. Yet, there's only what we have to go off of. Dane Brugler, for example, has his last year. He had 32 guys in the first round. I mentioned this on the front row in his mock, 16 mock that he did. 14 of them eventually went in the first round. He only had one guy penciled in to where he eventually ended up, and that's Ezekiel Elliott. But still, this is a good discussion factor. Like I said, name recognition-wise, if you look at the mocks, Raekwon's on all of them. Reputation-wise and kind of vibe-wise, and his boys are reading that, my expectation is he's going to try and leave.
Well, I think that once he sees his evaluation and there's this, in big red letters, this kid he's not going to be on the field on third down. He's not showing pass defense capabilities. That's where I believe he's been a smart kid all along. He's been a mature kid. I think he's going to realize he needs to come back and develop his pass defense skills, or he'll play in the NFL. Oh yeah, there's no doubt he'll play in the NFL, but he won't be drafted as high as he should, and he won't make as much money, at least on his first contract, because he's going to be, the way the NFL's set up now, you're drafted lower, the rookie pay scale. You need to be drafted higher to make really big money. He's not going to make the money because he's not a cover linebacker yet. He's still a kid you don't want on the field on third down. So that's why I think he'll come back and say, I need the extra year. We'll see how the season goes. That's going to tell a lot on some of these guys, Dan. They're going to say, well, we want it, and we're losing some guys, even though we're not losing a lot of guys. I don't know if we can do it again, because I think that played a role in several guys going this year, in this draft. I think, if we had more veterans coming back, we wouldn't have seen Jalen Marshall maybe. He said it seems to be it was about school for him, but I think he would have had more of incentive. You look at Tyvis Powell. If he had a better shot, he thought at making a run at it. Would he have stuck around? Probably.
Agreed. I guess Billy Price would be a candidate as well right now. I don't necessarily see it, so it will not be the draft like this year, next year, but I have a feeling it's going to be better than people expect. There's a couple other guys I think could go with a huge year. Curtis Samuel, Marcus Ball, and I know that sounds crazy now, but I'm telling you, I said Eli Apple to people last year and got laughed off a conference call to people in Tennessee. So we shall see. All right, here are going to be two of the most interesting 2017 draft discussions, I believe, that will take place on the front row over the next 360-odd days. The first is outside Ohio environs and started last night. Will Michigan guy Jabril Peppers be a high first-round pick?
I absolutely believe that he will be. He's a guy that can make plays, seen him better on offense than on defense. But here's the thing. The guy has not played. He's dividing his time up, and now that's cool, and everybody thinks, ooh, how great a player he is. Well, yeah, that he can, but he does not get full development. I remember Chris Gamble was coming out. There was one word you saw over and over and over again in evals on him, and that was raw. Why was that? Because he's playing two positions. He's dividing he's losing half his time one way or the other. So I think that's going to hurt him, but I think his potential is so high. I pointed out yesterday in a thread about this that we saw Jalen Smith go to Dallas in the second round, a kid who is there's just very little chance he's going to play football this year and may never play again. And we saw Miles Jack, who may be facing microfracture surgery. He got drafted in the second round. Based on what? Potential.
I agree with you. The thing about Peppers is he's just a pretty high-level athlete and versatile. And if you look at the way they're drafting now, they're not pigeonholing guys as much. One of the reasons, for example, Jalen Ramsey wasn't picked by the Cowboys, I think, is there was some discussion as whether he was a corner or a safety. So that could hurt Peppers a little bit, and then I don't think he has a chosen position. But guys like that, track stars, athletes from huge programs that have instincts, they just get picked high because the level of hubris in the NFL is that they think they can coach anybody into doing anything. So if you have the talent Peppers has, my guess is it's going to work for him. Also, I believe Harbaugh probably still has some connections in the NFL to be able to get him higher on a few boards than maybe otherwise thought. So I would agree with you there. Here's going to be the most interesting topic we'll discuss on the draft, in my opinion, over the next, like I said, 360-odd days, and one I think is going to split Bucknutters about down the middle, and that is J.T. Barrett and his professional outlook. Obviously, this is going to be his redshirt junior season, so he'd have to leave early according to his eligibility, but he'll have been here for what seems like a decade. I'm not sure there's going to be much else to accomplish based on what I expect from the team this year. And he's going to be a very controversial draft pick because he's not the prototype. He doesn't have the prototype size. He doesn't have the prototype arm, but he does have the prototype brain and leadership skills. And he's going to have the prototype pedigree. What is your vibe on J.T. Barrett? Do you think this is his last year in Columbus? And if so, your view on him as a pro prospect?
I say he won't go because he won't like where he's evaluated, and he's going to learn a lot about this team and whether they're going to be good in the future this year. He'll know, we got a nice crop coming back. We can make another run at it. I just don't see that out of him. He just does not have. You look at the first round quarterbacks. What were they? They were big guys with big arms, and that's what the NFL is going to draft. The heady guys are just not going to go in the first round. It's just the way it is. If they're heady guys, that's extra. They, like you said earlier, the hubris is unbelievable. They think that they can coach up anybody. And they're going to take a guy like Carson Wentz from North Dakota State and think they're going to, bring him up to an NFL level of read and react. And, hopefully for the kid that does happen. But you know what? They're not going to look at that with Jay. He's 6 feet tall, maybe 6'1". He's got a good arm, but not a great arm. They're just it's not good enough. It's not enough. So I think he looks at it. I think he gets convinced to come back. If he goes early, I don't see any chance where he's a first, even a second rounder. I don't see it. I think he can get a look in the pros, but he just does not have the tools they're looking for.
I'll play devil's advocate here for a little bit. I don't necessarily disagree that he doesn't follow the prototype. Here's what might work in his favor. The number one quarterback in next year's draft is Deshaun Watson, who is not the Carson Wentz prototype or the Jared Goff pocket prototype. So that may get everybody thinking more along those lines. Secondly, I think one of the biggest issues for Barrett has been, like you said, his lack of obvious arm strength. There is a chance to me, though, that some of that was related to his previous injuries, and that an extended period of health for his lower body, where he is stronger, will lead him having a stronger arm this year, because I do think he's going to get a lot of credit this year when Ohio State wins a lot of games as a leader. Because last year's quarterback situation was, worthy of a documentary film, much less, talking about. So I really wonder how that affected him. I do think he's going to get every chance to do this. And guys like Drew Brees and Tom Brady and Peyton Manning, who were mental 10s on this chart and, physical 7 or 8s coming out, have also improved their arm strength. And to me, Barrett's in that vein as a tactician and just needs to do it physically. So I do think he has a chance to be a late first round, early second round draft pick. We shall see. We appreciate Duane stopping by. Duane, we only have about 362 days to find out if we were right.
We've got a lot of football ahead of us, though, to keep us occupied until we get there.
Now that's some good news. People in Ohio enjoyed the great day. Those of you who have been smart enough to move to sunnier locales, enjoy. This has been the Bucknuts Morning 5. Have a great one, Bucknutters.